Well, let's talk some Sirius XM. Shares up on earnings. Jason, record revenues and the integration of Pandora. Well, that seems to be going well. A lot of optimism. Sirius XM acquired Pandora last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think the conversation for us regarding Sirius XM for a long time is all revolved around Howard Stern and would there actually be life beyond Howard, because he obviously won't last forever. I think we're actually starting to see signs that there may indeed be life after Howard. And I think the Pandora acquisition is going to play a pivotal role in that. I think initially when we saw they were doing that deal, there were some questions as to what really could they get out of Pandora that they don't already have. And I think really what it boils down to is data. When you combine these two entities, they're essentially going to have an audience of over 100 million listeners. There's going to be about 40 million self-paying subscribers, about 75 million who are not paying for subscriptions, but either listening on an ad-based model or whatever. And, you know, we talk a lot about how Starbucks has a lot of different levers they can pull when they want to try to generate more traffic in the store, right? Whether it's a treat receipt or buy one, get one free, whatever it may be. I think that Sirius is going to play that same card here with Pandora. They're going to get a lot of data here to be able to offer up some new products for listeners. And a couple of examples here. I mean, one thing they're going to do in early February, they're actually going to give select Pandora listeners an offer to buy a $5 a month mostly news and talk Sirius subscription. And that matters because most all of the cars that are coming out now are all satellite radio enabled. They just struck a deal with Toyota where Sirius XM is going to be the provider for all Toyota cars going on the road here through 2028. They're projecting 200 million cars on the road by over the next decade that will have that satellite radio hardware. So giving a product that really scratches whatever itch the listener has is going to be critical. And having Pandora is going to give them the data to be able to do that.
It also seems like going forward that the secret sauce for Sirius XM increasingly is going to be news. It's going to be talk. It's going to be live sports, because music feels like it's just become so commoditized.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. You can get whatever music you want anywhere. There are just a million offerings out there: Spotify, Amazon, Apple, Google, you name it. But where Sirius has really differentiated themselves is the breadth of the content that they offer, whether it's sports, news, talk, comedy. I mean, look at the relationship with Netflix. They're leveraging some of that Netflix comedy to offer it in audio form on Sirius XM. So it just more and more is becoming kind of like a Netflix in that regard. They have a little bit of something for everyone. And then if they can figure out ways to monetize that as optimally as possible, and whether that's just catered offerings to people who want a certain thing or people who want the whole package. I mean, remember, we're coming into a very polarizing election year here in 2020, and I'm certain there are going to be a lot of people that would love to have access to a news and talk style offering that's going to be reliable. I mean, that's the beauty of Sirius of Sirius Radio is the satellite. It's just so reliable.
I think also the defensive mechanism that this against the likes of Spotify, the other competition, Jason, that you mentioned. I mean, Sirius, the top line growth rates have slowed a little bit. So taking on something like Pandora to help bring some excitement back to the product, to both the product as well as for shareholders. I mean, the stock has reacted nicely on the news over the past couple of years. So just thinking through how this changes the landscape of providers when it comes to music and talk radio is really interesting. I think looking if you were in the Sirius boardroom, you're saying, hey, we got to make some kind of move here, and here's a Pandora price that's pretty reasonable to get the assets that they own. Yeah, they'll have a Pandora channel on Sirius XM here in the coming months. They're starting to place some big bets on podcasts. They felt like they missed that boat more or less. So I think that it's all based on just growing out that offering, using the data to slice and dice different product offerings to give at least an option for everybody out there, considering how many people are actually going to have access to that satellite radio via the car. It's really amazing. We were talking before the show, when you look at the 10-year stock chart of Sirius XM, and it wasn't that long ago that this stock was trading for under $1. And there was a very, very fair, reasonable question: are they going bankrupt? Yeah. And I think at the time, and I didn't invest in them, and I love SiriusXM as a consumer, but I think a lot of people probably underestimated the power of Howard Stern. I think you're right. I think that they made obviously they've made a very smart bet in using him to really launch
that offering because such a loyal listener base on the Stern side of things when he moved over to Sirius, and that enabled him to do a lot more as well. I mean, he didn't have to worry so much about the FCC anymore, and I think it's made the show a lot funnier. I mean, granted, it's probably not for everyone, but hey, I'm one of those loyal listeners. So yeah, I mean, I think that what Howard Stern ultimately bought them, other than really awesome content, was he bought Sirius a lot of time to actually build up a subscriber base. And now that they have that base, and they also have some data on that user base because they have a pretty slick app there as well, they're just becoming, they're more and more able to slice and dice and come up with product offerings that just give what you want to listen to when you want to listen to it. And if you can offer it at multiple price points or even possibly a free ad-supported model, which it sounds like they're coming out with, I mean, hey, they're making it available to the biggest base possible, and that's important.
We talked about the advantage of the subscription businesses when you think about the Apples and the different in profit margin between their services business and their hardware business. Sirius has higher profit margins than Apple does as a subscription business. Not just a little, 28% versus 26%, but it is telling. And this is why Tim Cook, looking at the services business and reporting the gross margin that they reported this quarter and saying, hey, wow, this is the future of what Apple may look like. It's just a matter of getting the revenue growth high enough for that to really make a meaningful difference for Apple's shareholders.
Any chance that Apple would buy Sirius XM? Doesn't make sense.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't really think that's right up their alley. I mean, that's content's such a tricky business, and when you have a company like Sirius that's already bringing Pandora into the mix, I don't know that they would really be interested in an acquisition like that anyway. I'm sticking with Square. Apple needs to buy Square.